Hi everyone. Today I have a pleasure of speaking with Kate Codrington, who is an author, facilitator, and speaker. Hello, Kate.
Hello.
Thank you so much for joining me in this conversation here. I have been following you a little bit, not in a kind of stocky kind of way, but kind of checking out a bit your work and your book for a while because, as I was saying to you before we started recording, I'm 51. I'm in a full-blown perimenopause that kicks my ass every so often. And so the subject of being in autumn of my life, going through perimenopause and then into menopause soon is very dear to my heart. And the book that you wrote really spoke to me. So, it's a pleasure having you here on the podcast.
Thank you.
Um, but I'd like to start with just asking you to tell us a little bit about, how did you end up talking about the subject? How did you end up writing about menopause?
Mm, Thank you. Yeah, I suppose all my work, and I've been working in this well-being field for more than 30 years, it's all about me.
I love that.
Well, it's an ongoing inquiry as to how can to understand myself, to live better, to feel more comfortable in my skin, I would say
Mm.
simply. So that's taken many forms over the years, in many different trainings and investigations. And as to how Second Spring came to be written, it was because I had been working with groups and individuals who were in perimenopause, uh, working mostly with the emotional and spiritual growthful aspects, online and in person. And I could not, and what I witnessed was it wasn't that people were not um, in difficulties, that it wasn't that they weren't facing challenges. These weren't superhuman, extraordinary people. These were ordinary people facing the challenges that we all do, most of us do in perimenopause, but they were growing and taking steps in their to inhabit more of themselves. Like they were moving these challenges. I got it. These challenges were moving them towards individuation. These
Mm.
challenges were making them more whole. So there was suffering, and they were growing out of that suffering. And um, they knocked my socks off. They still knock my socks off. My clients, I bloody love you because they're ordinary people, and that there's the courage that it takes to grow through this stuff is extraordinary. And I bet you see it every day. It's just amazing. But this is not reflected. This is a very quiet thing, and it's a very inward process, and it's not reflected in the outside world. So
Mm.
I wanted to share some of this goodness and some of the possibilities in the outside world, and through a series of luck and good fortune. And I have privilege, so I had the time to write. There's a reason why most books published are by white people, usually white men,
Mm.
and who are middle class, because it takes a lot of time and a lot of energy. So I had that privilege, and I had a bit of luck, and I ran with it.
Yeah.
Because I know I'm quite diffident. I'm quite ambivalent all the time. Oh, oh, I don't know. But with Second Spring, I was like a terrier after a bone. I was like a little dog after a
Mm.
bone, and I was absolutely focused. And I was gonna follow this through, and I was gonna make it work, and I
Mm.
was gonna get this seasonal map of perimenopause and of life really into the mainstream. And I could feel it's a bit like you were talking about your studio and the pandemic. I could feel the timing was right. So I had timing, and I had the means, the privilege, and I had some skills and a bit of luck.
A good combination, really, to
Yeah.
create something. And
Yes.
I love what you just said. You know, there is a lot of stuff. We do talk more, certainly here in UK, about perimenopause and menopause these days. I mean, you know, even 20, 30 years ago, we were not talking as much about it. So it is in a conversation, but not in a way that you are talking about this and that you wrote in your book. You know, you were talking about that focus on the more emotional and spiritual aspect of it, of, you know, experiencing challenges and growing through it. You were, you know, the words that you used that I absolutely love was you talked about ordinary women, like everyday women going through some, not out there in a flashy, beautiful, lots of makeup and nice dresses and, you know, polished pictures and how it all looks, but actually, you know, real women going through process of growth, transformation, and really becoming more embodied, becoming
Yeah,
more
and the
comfortable.
process of growth and transformation happens in the messiness and the muck. You know, it happens. I've just been scooping leaves out of my pond actually just before we clearing out the autumn's debris, and you know that the transformation happens in the arguments and negotiations around domestic tasks,
Oh,
around
yeah.
and around the mess in the house, around the emotional labor that people in perimenopause no longer have any energy to do. So the transformation isn't a whoa, you know, sitting in a lotus pose, breathing the energy up your spine. That is not what we're talking about. We're talking about the messy nitty gritty of every day. Actually, no, I'm not going to do this anymore, and watching the repercussions and then dealing with the repercussions, and that's what it's about, and that's what I mean by ordinary.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And I could say I just so know what you're talking about.
Yeah, right.
Even this morning, I experienced that. I just know what you're talking about. And there is a need for that, isn't it? It's like our choice going through that transformation is to either embrace it and actually show up for it, or start numbing out and start avoiding it, which then has got its own consequences that come with it. So with you, with the work, with your clients and with the book, could you?
Can I challenge you a bit
Yeah,
actually
sure.
before
Go
you get
on.
into that? The you know, go with it or numbing out. You know, in real life, it's kind of both. Like we
Yes.
will numb out, and numbing out is really helpful because it's bloody exhausting. So yeah, numb. Be
Yeah.
numb for a bit until you have enough resources to engage. You know,
Yeah.
so it doesn't become this um binary about, you know, conscious or not, or but that we're all kind of going in and going out as best we can.
Yeah. I
Mm.
guess what I meant was, you know, as I said, I have the background in substance misuse and mental health. I
Right.
meant by numbing out, I meant constant. You know, it's very true that many of us use the coping strategies in various
Yeah.
forms where we go in and go out. And, you know, that's the nature of current society when we are bombarded with so much information and so much data. And, you know, how do we cope with all of that? Yeah, so it's a very good point. Thank you. So can I ask the kind of can you share some of the kind of main things, main points, more main pearls of wisdom that come through your work with your clients and that you shared in your book?
Yeah, sure. Sometimes I call myself chief validation officer
Mhm.
because a lot of what I do is validating feelings. So, um, yes, you're feeling angry, and yeah, that is justified. And yes, you are allowed to express it, and that's okay. So, allowing feelings, and we waste so much energy. We all waste so much energy, particularly if we have a bit of, you know, like personal growth or well-being training, and second guessing what we feel. Oh, you know, we're encouraged, we're almost encouraged to overthink. Oh, well, maybe this is because of my mother, or maybe, you know, I shouldn't be feeling this because I should be bigger hearted, or, you know, or generally gaslighting ourselves about our feelings. You know, if
Yeah.
you're feeling pissed off, you're feeling pissed off. Well, that's absolutely valid, and we don't have to uh, justify, explain, think through, we can just feel our feelings in our body and let our body show us what needs to be expressed in that. So validation is the first thing. The second thing is that perimenopause, as you referred to earlier, is an autumnal time and a wintry time. So at its simplest, that's a time when we're more permeable, we're more sensitive, and there's a reason for that. It's really purposeful that we're more sensitive and permeable. And just knowing that it's normal and natural to be more permeable and sensitive, if you're having a natural menopause at a fairly regular time, which is somewhere between 45 and 55, menopause meaning a year since your last period, then you will be feeling more sensitive in that decade, and that's it, you know, and more permeable. So you are again justified and fully entitled to take precautions to protect yourself in that time. God, I'm really clear this morning. I hadn't really articulated like this before, but you can protect yourself. So go out less, don't mix with people who don't respect you, don't push yourself too hard, drink more water, eat more nourishing food, move in a way that is pleasurable to you, more pleasure. You know, you can protect, you are fully justified in protecting yourself and nourishing yourself. Yeah, I think that's it. That's two things. There you go.
Yeah, and saying no, I guess, saying no to things that don't resonate, that don't sound like fun. Yeah, that's really great. I think, you know, when I work with women, we often talk about women's experiences about being told, like when they express their feelings, like I feel like this, being told, you know, just get on with it, or you shouldn't be feeling like this, or within the, you know, what are you complaining about within the bigger spectrum of life, you know, you should feel grateful for, and really kind of hearing it a lot through our lives and then internalizing it. So it's not just during the childhood when you're told that you shouldn't be angry, behave yourself, you know, all of those kind of things, but also through our lives. And that can happen. You know, I heard women talking about birth trauma and then being told, like, you've got a healthy baby, you just need to get on with it. Or women being told that, you know, what are you depressed about? You've got good husband, good home, good job. You know, just pick yourself up and keep going. So there are so many different ways that we are being gaslighted by others and being told that don't trust those feelings, definitely don't express them, don't rock the boat, just get on with it. And then, you know, we come into perimenopause and it almost feels like you have to express it. There is no space for, you know, those feelings are kind of quite enhanced. One of my clients said that it's almost like having a PMT all the time. Like I have to say what I'm thinking. I need to be heard. I need to honor it. There is quite a lot of fire often that comes up in setting those boundaries. So the validation piece seems like a real foundational piece in here.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Would you say?
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, the purpose of this sensitivity and permeability is so that we see the truth. We see the truth about how we've been conditioned, what we've taken on that is not ours. We see the truth about the world. So naturally, a lot of feelings will arise, and that is right and proper. So there's, you know, we see this stuff. We see how we were trained, maybe to not feel angry, to be nice and good and helpful, often for girls trained that way. And we take that, we build that into careers, some of us, just saying.
Yes, very true.
I mean, certainly for me, you know, like, look how good I am. Look how nice I am. Look, I'm a professionally nice person. I'm sure I'm not alone in that.
You're not alone. I'm the same. So, and I'm sure a lot of women listening to this will resonate.
And the perimenopause sensitivity, the autumnal sensitivity, shows us the cost. It shows us the cost of being nice and asks us, do you want to continue like this, or can you let these beliefs go?
Yeah, yeah. So I wonder, what are the kind of, maybe we can look at, like, from your experience, how does a woman know that she is not listening to those voices? Like, what are the kind of most common things that you heard women say from their experience?
Everybody doesn't listen. Not listening is part of the process.
Okay.
Because if perimenopause didn't exist, and there are many femtech companies and out there who are trying to eradicate perimenopause for us, so probably by the time I shuffle off this earth, that will probably be a thing, the way things are going. No, I've lost my thread. I got distracted by femtech. What was I going to say? Oh yeah, no one would choose to rein back. In your everybody, if there wasn't the constriction of perimenopause energy and symptoms, we would all be bounteously doing and being out in the world and being, we would be expanding our businesses, and we would be diversifying and being out there and being more visible all the time. We would just expand and expand and expand, because that's human nature. So we need this perimenopause to bring us back into ourselves. And I can't remember what you asked me now. I've kind of lost the thread, but we need, not listening, that's right. So we don't want to hear, when say, well, I'll talk about myself. Say my energy started to drop, and my work was very busy with lots of different things, many different things. And I knew I had to stop, because I had the advantage of an education at Red School. But I was still not doing it. I was literally putting my fingers in my ears and going, la, 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 yes, I know I must stop, la, 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 keep going. And that is part of the process that we have to meet. We have to meet and tussle with our challenge and resist it. Otherwise, there wouldn't be any, what is the purpose of that? The purpose of that, I think, is to help us build resilience and toughen up. We have to meet the challenge, whether it's a dropping in energy or pain, or whatever it is that we're meeting. There's a holy battle with it before we can then surrender. We can't skip from noticing our energy is dropping to resting adequately without it's a reckoning. It's like a royal battle. I think of sort of warrior women going into battle to engage. This is like that healthy aggression, when there's healthy aggression and you go in towards someone to engage and to meet them, and that's how sex happens. That's how great sex happens. That's how engagement happens. That's how fighting our corner happens. It's really healthy. It's a really healthy thing. So yeah, not listening is part of the process, and then bit by bit we start to listen.
So how can we start listening?
Oh,
I know it's a big question, but
it's a really, really great question, because any old well-being embodied type person will say, listen to your body.
Yeah, but what does that mean?
So my observation is that you already know what that means, because you've lived for 4 or 5 decades. So you will have your own ways of listening. So if you think about some other time when you were vulnerable, so it might have been when you injured yourself and you were trying to recover, or when you were bereaved, or when you were recovering from an addiction, say, or if you've had a child, then postnatally. Think back to that time and feel into what was helpful for you then. For some people, it will be chatting with friends. For some people, it will be going to a structured class of some kind, you know, like a yoga class. Or for some people, it will be meditation. Or for, you know, or some people, it will be walking in the country or whatever. You already know what it is. And there are like a bazillion people who will tell you what to do. But I think it's more helpful to reflect back on what has worked, and it's quicker, you know, it's more efficient, and you waste a lot less money, right? If you reflect back on what has worked for you in the past, and then do that like 100% more for longer, every day, every week, or whatever's appropriate, and then see what happens. Notice what happens, and then when you've used the resources you already have, if you still need it, then you can look outside yourself. But what we tend to do is go, oh, there's a pain, I'm going to outsource it out there, and we Google and we go and ask people, and we automatically ask outside of ourselves first. So better, more efficient and cheaper to do it internally first.
I love that. That is so beautiful, because really, you know, even when I work with my clients, the process is always about giving permission to somebody to give themselves permission to do what works for them already, or to choose the things that resonate, not kind of force anything, but to start trusting that inner knowing. But as you said, it's much quicker to actually look at what worked in the past and what could we do more of, and we can start doing it straight away.
And, you know, before you buy a supplement or whatever it is, spend a week being actually hydrated. Spend double the amount of fruit and vegetables and plants that you're eating, and then see what happens. Test it out.
Or just have some rest. For me, it's definitely going for walks with our dog Oscar. It's like, if I can have more time, longer morning walks, longer afternoon walks, that really kind of nourishes me, especially on the beautiful day like today.
And the key thing, that's another thing that is foundational, I think, is that you'll need more time for yourself, and more time than you think is reasonable or allowed, and more time than people will allow you to have. You'll want to leave your life for a year, if not longer. So just, again, being chief validation officer, just knowing that that's normal. And because we have kids later these days, people with families will likely have quite small kids when they're in perimenopause, so they're in this almighty struggle between the need to mother and care for small people who need you 24/7, and the need to run for the hills, and with all the associated guilt and difficulty that comes with that.
There is something in here that you're talking about that comes up for me. You were talking about, you use that word surrender, like the surrender. And, for many of us, the word surrender comes with giving up. Whereas what you are talking about, it's like the more you talk, the more it comes through that there is such a big element of surrender as acceptance, like stopping fighting against it and allowing yourself to just see it and accept it for what it is. And then make decisions from that space, whether it is the validating or honoring or really expressing and letting others know, I need more time, I need more space. Like, no, I don't want to do the laundry or cooking right now or whatever. I just want to be left alone for a little bit so I can take care of myself and attend to my needs.
We could frame surrender as coming into a compassionate relationship with yourself, or coming into a more deeply loving relationship to yourself. And that describes it a bit better, I think, sometimes to be deeply compassionate to yourself, that would mean giving up, but often it means taking a stand. So if you feel into what would be the most, like, it's a great mindfulness practice. whatever time of life, what would be the most loving thing that I could do for myself right now?
Yeah.
And that is surrender. Mm.
There is something that comes up for me around how middle-aged women are talked about and shown in series, on TV, in the media. And I've heard that saying again and again, that there is nobody more invisible than a middle-aged woman, that the middle-aged woman is unnoticeable, can blend in. And what comes up for me is that there is maybe an element of fear within our psyche as women, as we go through perimenopause and menopause, that we will somehow become really invisible.
Mm.
And what I'm hearing you talk about this, like, you know, you said, live your life for a year, give yourself time, you know, to look after yourself. And so how do we navigate this? You know, maybe if the fear is coming up like this, and knowing that actually we do need to step back. We do need to let go of projects or responsibilities to look after ourselves.
I think there is a lot there. I hear that too, this saying, I'm fear of being invisible, or dismay at being invisible. And I think it's a really interesting investigation to ponder on, who am I not visible to, in what way, and
Mm.
how does that, and what does that mean for me? Because it means different things for different people, and it's a kind
Mm.
of blankety, it's a generality and a bit of a cliche, and like all cliches, it has some truth in it, but it depends on what it means for you. And I think that in our ageist culture, if you are someone whose self-esteem and meaning is deeply connected to male gaze, then you suffer a lot,
Mm.
because our culture is ageist, and in general, with male gaze, it passes over older people. So
Mm.
yeah, there is a massive reckoning
Mm.
there that is really hard.
Mm. Yeah, I really hear that. I really hear that. But that could also happen within the kind of professional arena.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think, you know, when we are talking about, you know, women running their own businesses, women having careers, I know that many women leave careers. A lot of women choose to go self-employed so they can actually manage their time in a better way to support themselves
Yeah.
and meet their obligations. So is there anything in there? Like, I know that you were talking about your own experience, that you had to step back from different responsibilities. So maybe you can tell us a little bit about how you managed it.
What did I do? Yeah, well, just to be really transparent, I don't know anything about the world of work. I've never had a proper job.
Okay,
I've always been self-employed. So
wonderful.
yeah, I know. So that world is a pretty opaque to me. So when I go and talk to that world, I come in as this sort of like other creature from another planet.
Hmm.
So I don't really know about that. I can't really speak to that. What I did was, it was clear that I had to, in order to see the way forward, I had to let go of all my expectations of working. Like, it turned out that I didn't have to stop working, but I had to let go of any expectation of my work continuing. And in order to do that, I had to stop. And actually, and I talked about privilege earlier, I had the opportunity to stop for 6 months.
Okay.
And it took me a very long time. You know, I had about a 6 months preparation period to feel into, to arrange it all. I couldn't just step off, because I couldn't. It was too major. but I had to stop, yeah, for 6 months. And amazingly, the money to pay the bills was manifested at that point. And I do have a partner who was around to pick up the slack, to pick up the slack. So I got really lucky. But in that time, I was able to feel very free, actually, to feel very free. I made sort of agreements with myself to only do things that were pleasurable, or when there were things that were unpleasant that I had to do, to find meaning and purpose in them. And to, yeah, I definitely had a deadline. I was like, I am not allowed to think about work in any shape or form uh, until this date in 6 months. In 6 months' time. Yeah, and what happened was there was an enormous burst of creativity, because I was asking myself, well, how long are you going to? It was a sort of mortality knocking, really. How long, Kate, are you going to wait? Are you going to put off doing what you really want to do? Are you going to wait until you don't have the physical capacity to do it? Come on.
I love that question.
Yeah. How long are you going to wait until I was talking to myself, am I going to wait until my hands no longer function and then give myself permission to paint in the way that I wanted to say? And that, yeah, I gave myself a bit of a jump scare.
There is something so beautiful about giving yourself permission to actually do something like that, and trust that your needs will be taken care of, that there is support around you, that it's not like you just stopping and everything is going to fall to bits around you. But actually giving yourself that time. And I love what you said about creativity, that because you stepped back and because you allowed yourself to focus on things that gave you joy or had meaning, the creativity was really thriving in that space.
Yeah, really thriving, and in ways, and it was, I mean, the start of when I was like 18, I went to art school, and it basically beat all the creativity out of me, because I felt I had to perform and be good enough all the time. And so the work that I was doing was absolutely about process over goals. So it was nothing to do with arriving at a particular point. It was only about process. And that meant everything gets more pleasurable and more interesting. And I think that was a major life lesson and training, because of course it's about process. Of course life is about process. When we set ourselves up with goals and we arrive at a goal, then we have some temporary feeling of something or other, but that's not the thing. That's only a small part of it. It's the process that's the thing. So it taught me to live. That sounds a bit pretentious, actually, but it taught me a better way of focusing my attention. So.
Yeah, what I'm hearing you talk about is being in the present moment, rather than focusing on that point in the future when we achieve our outcome or our goal. And yeah, I find that when I focus too much on the goals, I become very rigid and very stressed.
I'm not a goal person. So yeah, I've never had a proper job, and I'm not a goal person. So I'm naturally more focused on process, on the qualitative, rather than the quality of process, rather than being in a particular place. Yeah.
So if you had to give, it's a funny question, but I don't know how to phrase it. But if I ask you, not you had to, but if I ask you to give some couple of pieces of advice for women who are like in the middle of perimenopause, and it's hot and messy and it's all coming at them, and it feels like there's one thing after another, and what would that be?
oh, that you're doing really well,
Mm.
that you're absolutely brilliant. You're doing brilliantly to cope with all this stuff, because for nearly everybody, we completely underestimate and do not see everything that we're holding. You know, we
Mm.
think, well, so and so down the road is, is this age and she's got 5 children and a business and is doing fine. And we don't see that we are all the emotional work we're doing. We don't recognize the trauma that we're holding. We don't recognize, if you're in well-being, we don't recognize the enormous, exhausting weight of holding clients. Can we talk about that? The
Yes.
enormous, exhausting, we say, oh, well, I saw 10, 20, 30, whatever clients this week and sort of taught these classes, and that's I should be working harder, and like, it's hard. You're
Mm.
doing that and you're holding this,
Thank you for saying that. Yeah.
it's hard. And
Mm.
if you find that it's hard, that's normal. It's not that you're doing it wrong. It is hard work.
Mm. Yeah. I love what you just said. I used to think there was something really wrong with me, that I
Me too.
needed
Yeah,
breaks between the clients. I couldn't just go, like, I would see other practitioners having people waiting outside of the treatment room and having one after the other, one after the other. And I was like, if I do that, I'd be done at the end of day number one. There'd be nothing left of me. I need, at least 15 minutes to decompress for a moment,
yeah,
to actually check in with myself, to
yeah,
have a glass of water, to go to the toilet, not to have to think about anybody.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Only 15 minutes. I mean, that's nothing.
Used to be half an hour, then it was
Yeah,
15 minutes, then there was just 3 clients in a row, no more.
yeah. So you're doing brilliantly. And the other thing I could say is to bring, okay, I'll do 3, is to bring a quality of softness towards yourself, a quality of compassion towards yourself
Mm.
in whatever way, in whatever you're facing. And the third thing is to look at the pacing of how you pace the moments in your days. So moving, I mean, it's kind of like having bigger gaps between your meetings or between your clients, and then in those gaps, not instantly checking your emails, but to exhale and to stretch and to move slowly from place to place, move more slowly from place to place. So there's the actual moment to moment, oh, all my shoulders stretching and sort of moving in the moment. And there's also diary planning, stretching the gaps, stretching stuff out so there are bigger gaps, which will mean saying no to stuff, but pacing yourself more gently.
Mm.
And that's something that you can put in place right now, no matter what your day is faced with. Even in a really intense day, you can move from your office to the bus stop in a slow way.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Just giving yourself permission to live your life in that way on a daily basis, rather than having to run away for a
Yeah.
holiday for 2 weeks or 6 months in an ashram in India, or
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing, you could go away for 2 weeks or 6 months or whatever, and live the dream, whatever your dream is. And then when you come back, you'll still be coming back. You take yourself away to the ashram with you, but then you still come back into your life.
yeah, yeah.
Mm. Can we
Beautiful.
talk? We just before you pressed record, we were just starting a conversation about practitioners and how we have to do the work ourselves first.
Yes.
So I got really excited and I said, press record, because I really want to have this conversation. And I was
Yes, let's
saying,
talk about that.
let's talk about that.
Mm.
We got just a 5 minute little ding dong on this. And I'd be fascinated to hear your take on it. I feel that the work we do on ourselves is the work. It's not supplemental to the
Mm.
learning and the education. That is the work. That unless we can walk our talk unless we can really hold ourselves with love and compassion and curiosity some of the time, and come back to compassion and curiosity when we go off into judgment and blame and self-hatred. When we come back, that is the work, that is the training, and that is ongoing and lifelong. And that's
I
what
so agree with you.
Practitioner. And it doesn't really matter. I mean, it's helpful to have a good theoretical structure behind you, but I think that's the thing.
Yes, I completely agree with you.
That was a short conversation.
I think it's such an important thing, because there is, there are many jobs out there that you could do where you are in a certain kind of way with your clients, but then you're not doing the work yourself. I certainly seen it quite a lot in social care, where there were practitioners maybe working in caring professions, being very, very caring towards the clients, but actually not taking care of themselves at all. And I think one of the beautiful things is that for those of us who answered the call of actually working in a different way, and that's what I'm seeing with a lot of practitioners, that it's once you realize that everything is built on that foundation of you being able to walk your talk and you being able to take care of yourself first, because everything else stands on that. That's when real shift starts to take place.
That's a great way of expressing it, as a foundation. Because when the foundations aren't there, then burnout happens quickly.
Yes.
I mean, it's not that burnout happens, but it happens quite fast.
Yes. Yes. And many of us have experienced it. I experienced it in social care. I've watched my partner going through that. I've watched his sister going through that. It's, a lot of my friends, a lot of clients. And I think it is, you could say to yourself, there is something wrong with me, which is certainly what society tells you. Or you could see it for what it is, that a lot of systems are unsustainable. And no matter what you do, it will still be the same outcome from it. And the beauty of being self-employed is certainly that what you were talking about earlier, that you can start manage your diary. You can say yes to things or no to things. You can pick up those projects or let them go.
You can have a word with your boss.
Yes, exactly.
You go to the unions and say, hey, we need a bit of negotiation here, because I have this terrible boss. Yes. She makes me do my social media and answer my emails at 9 o'clock at night.
That's right. That's right. But it is this kind of, that quiet revolution of actually changing how women are working. So then hopefully we can teach our daughters and our children that there is another way, that we don't have to do it that way. And within everything that is happening, in the world at the moment, and what we are seeing, that are not really great role models. And I'm not going to go into the conversation about that, because we'd be here for a long time. It's even more important that we talk about things that we're talking here, about how you can pace yourself, how you can validate yourself, how you can slow down to the rhythm that is more natural and more healing for you. Yeah.
And as we then slow down, then we start to see and feel more, and feel what we really need. But when we're going very quickly, of course, we can't feel, it is a kind of numbing out to get into that fast-paced, quick, super busy world, because then our bodies need, you come back to the question of how do you listen to your body. It requires a slow pacing, because we're mammals.
Yeah.
We're mammals with Instagram, Stone Age people with Instagram. So it requires a slower pace.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Kate. I really enjoyed talking to you. And I maybe as a finishing kind of point, if people wanted to check your work out and connect with you, how can they find you?
Thank you for that. I'm on Instagram at Kate_Codrington. And my website is katecodrington.co.uk. And if you go to the website, you will find a huge library of resources. There are lots of Yoga Nidras. There are Yoga Nidras for meeting the unknown, for hot flushes, for self-esteem, for pleasure. There are graphics of the seasons, so with the what are they? Sort of the traps, the difficulties, the challenges you might find, and the gifts that you might find in the different seasons, and many other things that I can't remember right now. But there's it's a bit of a pick and mix, Woolly's pick and mix for rest and recuperation.
Lovely.
It's
lovely.
all free, and you go there.
Great. And if people wanted to buy your book, they can buy it on Amazon as well.
Yeah, there are two books. One book is Second Spring, the Self-Care Guide to Menopause, and that's available worldwide, everywhere. Obviously, try and buy it at an indie shop if you possibly can.
Yes.
The other book is the Perimenopause Journal, and that takes this kind of stuff that we're talking about pacing, slowing down, and compassion, and helps you to give yourself accountability to do that every day in a journal form.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Kate. Thank
Pleasure.
you for joining me and for sharing your wisdom.
Thank you.
Thank you.